It's about to be a lovely day. A lovely day.
Yeah, you want to do it? I wish I knew. The opening.
All the way from 38 in Chicago.
It's in B flat.
Yes, right. All right.
Yeah.
Represent the neighborhood.
You want to do the trombone?
Say what? No justice?
No streets.
No justice?
No streets.
No justice?
No streets.
And we beat it.
It's up to you. All right. Yeah, we'll the three of us. We got 5 minutes. Yep. Go ahead.
I wish I knew how it would feel to be free. I wish I could break all these chains holding me. I wish I could say all the things I should say. I say it loud, I say it clear for the whole world to hear. I wish I could feel all the love in my heart and break all these walls that would keep us apart. I feel every day all the things I could say. I want to say it loud, say it clear for the whole world to hear. Thank you.
This way.
There's so many good ideas here. A lot of hopes for the future.
But
now that we have these ideas, what do we do with them?
Well, we provide them the right soil. We water them. We give them the right nutrients and sunlight.
You know these aren't real seeds, right?
Yes, I know they're not real seeds. I'm being metaphorical.
I'm just giving you a hard time.
Very funny. What I'm saying is we need to take each one and figure out what is needed for it to grow, like trust. How do we cultivate trust?
Well, for starters, listening.
Safety.
Definitely. Relationship building.
And that takes time and...
And understanding and validation and affirmation.
And if these seeds have everything they need, even if there is a storm, even if there is a breakdown in trust, the root structure, the support system is strong enough that the trust can sustain that, or it can bounce back.
There's resilience.
Oh, resilience. I like that. That should be on its own seed.
You know what makes me think of resilience?
What?
What happened in your town after your school closed down? Your community showed resilience by rallying together and building this new thing that benefited the entire community.
It makes me think of George Floyd Square and how this site of a murder has become a memorial and so much more, and how the caretaking of this site has become this resilient act of resistance.
Yeah, and now there are all these community events and art making. I see healing through all of the art murals and installations.
And it's the people, the community, who decide how this space is preserved and what it means and what its future will be.
Oh, I also think of Wakantipi Awankapi in St. Paul, the native-led East Side environmental stewardship nonprofit.
Yeah, they do all kinds of amazing work guided by Dakota principles and environmental justice, like recovering ecosystems, offering environmental education, and promoting cultural revival, connection, and healing.
Oh, there's also the Southeast Asian Diaspora Project.
Seed! It's incredible how they have initiatives guided by the arts and storytelling-based initiatives to promote justice, sustainability, and preservation in Khmer, Hmong, Lao, and Viet diaspora communities.
There are so many great examples of resilience in these communities, and I know our next panelists are going to share even more examples when they come up.
Yeah, like Tonya Allen from the McKnight Foundation. R.T. Rybak from the Minneapolis Foundation. David Mortenson from M.A. Mortenson Company. And get this, the host of NPR News, Angela Davis.
Whoa! But before all that, we're going to hear from Kathleen Enright, the CEO and president of the Council on Foundations.
What seeds are we all growing in our communities? Now, I've been sitting with this question all week. And maybe it's because I've just recently been tending some plants that my mother nurtured over the course of her life. Or maybe it's because I'm just not sure what it is, the seeds that we most need to plant right now in each of our communities during this most challenging and complex time. You know, when I reflect on the year so far, I am completely stunned by what has already transpired. The politics remain messy, the people divided, the threats are real, and support for those who need it most is hanging in the balance. And yet, one thing is absolutely certain. We must continue to plant the seeds of love, compassion, and care in our communities every single day. Because that is what has made generosity a core American value. And that is what made philanthropy be such an enduring driver of progress for decades. Now, as communities are struggling and nonprofits are facing increased demand and more obstacles, foundations like all of yours continue to meet the moment with compassion and urgency. Take, for instance, the Maui Recovery Funders Collaborative. They launched in 2023 after the wildfires, and they are supporting community-led recovery. They're making it easier for folks to get what they need and also attempting to model a new way to respond to disasters. Also, think about the Northwest Area Foundation right here in the Twin Cities, who, after they understood that federal dollars were restricting, are doubling their grant making this year to provide flexible support. They see it. They're providing flexible support to the communities that they care about all across the Dakotas, Montana, Idaho, Iowa, and beyond. Right here in Minnesota, of course. So they're both giving their communities the time to adapt and to prepare for what might be next. We also heard from the Arkansas Community Foundation, and they are focused on promoting healing the deep wounds that could otherwise undermine the progress that they're trying to make. They're funding programs to break down longstanding mistrust, right alongside helping survivors of the really difficult thing their communities have faced, gun violence, tornadoes, among other things. So now and always, you protect what matters most in communities, while at the same time helping communities prepare for what is next. And you know what? That drives so much of what makes life better for every single one of us and for the people, all the people that we love. Now, I gotta say this clearly. Our work has come under some attack, and I need you to know that your work is absolutely essential. It is valuable, it is essential, and it is what is going to help see us through. And I have to say, the stories that I just shared of some of your peers, they are inspiring. But even more inspiring is that each of you, everyone in this room, has a dozen such stories. A dozen stories of where you have left a place more beautiful than you found it. Where you have done something simple, like creating a well-lit playground, or supported that arts program that gives a child not only purpose, but hope. Or you are holding together towns that have faced a once-in-a-generation flood. So multiply all of your stories by everyone in this room and every community across the country, and the beauty we create together is astounding. But clearly, strong communities do not happen by chance. They grow over time because people like you stay committed through every season, no matter the challenges that you face. And right now, it is challenging. Right now, you're probably wondering why some things that used to be simple are much harder, why the basics are now in doubt. You may feel like the seeds that you've planted for years, maybe even decades, are being deprived of what they need to grow. But it is moments like this that demand something new from each of us. And it not only needs each of us, this moment needs all of us. So what that means is that we need to see ourselves as part of something bigger. We need to act in our collective best interest, lifting our voices in defense of our values and in defense of one another. It also means that we need to be grounded. We need to stay grounded in what connects us. Even as we disagree, we must continue to see our shared humanity. That means reaching out beyond our closest groups, practicing curiosity, living respect, because after all, as Ashley shared with us on the first day, we don't want communities that work for some of us. We want communities that work for everyone. Now take a moment and imagine what your community looks like after all of those seeds we've been talking about all week have blossomed and grown into their fullest form. what do you see? Maybe it is just kids playing under streetlights safely at night. Maybe it is a diverse group of your community sharing a meal in a church basement. Maybe it's that bakery and bookstore that came into the neighborhood, providing both jobs and community. And hopefully, it is signs of folks sharing more respect and a deeper sense of care for one another. All of this is only possible through a shared commitment and collective, enduring action. And that is your work. And that is the work that we at the council are committed to supporting. That is our work to help support and grow yours. We have been by your side for 75 years, and we will be by your side for 75 more, defending, supporting, and celebrating all of the good work that you do. Now, I mentioned that this moment demands new things from each of us. And so I am very excited to share something new that the council is going to be doing. We are announcing today a new initiative to help community foundations address the legal challenges of the current moment, to make sure that community philanthropy thrives into the future. Now, this idea was conceived by several of you in this room, and you came to us in partnership. So it is in that partnership and with your support that I'm excited to announce that the council is expanding our legal support for community foundations in a broad way to specifically do two things. We want to collectively help community foundations, both proactively and collectively, prepare for the challenging and changing both legal and regulatory environment. We are going to do that with expanded tools, helping you access the right legal relationships, resources, peer support, all of those sorts of things. But also, we want to make sure that every community foundation, regardless of your size or resources or where you're located in the country, is well equipped to protect your mission and your ability to exist. And we're going to do that by making sure that you can mount an appropriate response up to and including legal defense with a legal defense support fund that you can tap held here at the Council on Foundations. Now, I've got to thank the foundations on this screen who have already stepped up. This is of, by, and for community foundations. These 30 folks have already put their own money into the pool to make sure that they can support their peers. So thank you. I want to give some applause to these 30 foundations. If you want to add your name to the list, Tara will be in the back of the room. But we will share more details. This has been rapidly evolving like everything in our current environment. And so we will share details about how you access the fund, what the new resources are, but we want to co-create with you. So if you think that there's something that you might need or want or ultimately need to have access to, let us know, and we want to create what you most needs. But what you should know, and that we want to make sure is the headline for this whole thing, is that we are with you and we have your back. And this is one part of the expanding efforts that the council is making to protect your work and to make sure that we have a society and a field where charitable giving remains core and expanding part of American life, where each donor is free to give according to his or her own values, and where philanthropy remains independent from government in all of our work. We also want to make sure that the community organizations and the donors that power them are still able to build connections in a divided world. that it's still possible to come together across difference to solve real problems right where you live, work, pray, and dream. Now, these are some of the seeds we're planting at the council. And I want you to just take one more minute to look around you. We are all connected to something powerful, a belief that we can create a better world. That hope is powerful. And we all benefit from the seeds that were planted by those who came before us. We're all also laying the groundwork for growth that others will benefit from and enjoy decades from now. In fact, vital communities are built on this very premise, that some people are willing to plant trees whose shade they will never sit in. Now, I started this talk talking about tending my mom's plants, and I have to say I didn't mention one small thing, which is I've never really had very much of a green thumb, and I have killed more plants than I care to admit. But since my mom's death, I have spent a lot more time in the garden, tending plants, nurturing them, both inside my house and out. And maybe I think it's a way to stay connected to her. But regardless, when I see those plants blooming, when I see my home and yard filled with vibrancy and hope, it reminds me how grateful I am to all of the people, including my mom, who showed up season after season, year after year during drought and disaster, as well as times of abundance, to leave the people and places that they care for better than they found them. Thank you for being those people.
Please welcome to today's panel to the stage, moderated by Angela Davis from Minnesota Public Radio, Tonya Allen of the McKnight Foundation, R.T. Rybak of the Minneapolis Foundation, and David Mortenson of the M.A. Mortenson Company.
Well, hello, and welcome to Minneapolis. Those of you who are joining us from out of town, we're happy to see you, and hopefully you see we are still standing here in Minneapolis. We're still standing strong. So welcome to Minnesota. Truly an honor to be here today. My name is Angela Davis. I am a talk show host at Minnesota Public Radio. And I'm so happy to be here, to be a part of a conversation. I'm going to be moderating this conversation with a group of people, a group of leaders who have come together along with many others to really meet people at this intersection of capital and aspirations, and to invest in creating a region where everybody can thrive. Today we're going to talk about the Groundbreak Coalition. Have you heard about Groundbreak Coalition? We're going to find out about it today. A bold cross-sector collaboration that is really changing how capital flows into our community. Groundbreak was created not simply in response to a moment of crisis, but as a long-term commitment to addressing generations of exclusion from wealth-building opportunities, particularly in Black communities. As we recently marked the 5-year anniversary of the killing of George Floyd, it really feels especially meaningful to have this national conference here in Minneapolis. That tragic event, one of the most painful and pivotal moments in American history, really became a catalyst, as you know. It sparked a groundswell of urgency and action. We saw financial institutions, corporations, nonprofits, and philanthropy all come together, not just to respond, but to also rethink and to rebuild and to reimagine a new future. Groundbreak emerged from that moment, and not just as a quick fix, but as a coordinated, ambitious, and sustained effort to drive capital at scale into communities historically shut out of opportunities. And today, we're not just talking about plans or promises, because you hear a lot of talk about plans and promises. We're talking about progress. Groundbreak is not only rebuilding physical spaces, it is rewriting the rules, and it is proving what's possible when community, capital, and courage all converge. So, let's get started. I want to introduce who's here on the stage with me, our panelists, leaders who have really helped shape this work from the beginning and who continue to drive it forward. Tonya Allen is here. Wave at everybody, Tonya. That's Tonya. Tonya Allen is the president of the McKnight Foundation, whose leadership really has helped shape a very bold philanthropic mission, or vision rather, rooted in equity and systemic change. Glad to have you spend time with us today, Tonya. R.T. Rybak is here. Wave, R.T. There you go. R.T. Rybak is the CEO of the Minneapolis Foundation and former mayor of Minneapolis. And R.T. brings a really deep understanding of community governance and the importance of civic partnerships. David Mortenson is also with us. Hi, David. David is chairman of M.A. Mortenson Company, one of the nation's leading construction and real estate development firms, and he is a leader in the private sector who responded swiftly to restore, rebuild, and now reimagine the region's economic corridors. We want to begin by really getting to know more about each of you, and so I'd like for each of you to briefly introduce yourselves, share how you got connected to the work of Groundwork, and you have about 90 seconds each to do that. And I want to start with you, Tonya.
I feel like that briefly was directed at me. So, hi everyone, my name is Tonya Allen. I have the privilege of, well, first, welcome to Minnesota. Welcome to our home. We're so glad to have you here. I would just say I have the privilege of serving as the president of the McKnight Foundation and also the privilege of serving as the chair of the Groundbreak Coalition. At the McKnight Foundation, our mission is beautiful, which is we aim to advance a just, creative, and abundant future where people and planet thrive. And we try to power that mission in a couple of ways, or maybe 3 ways. One is to be proximate with our partners, to lean in with ingenuity, and to make sure that we use every form of capital that we have available to us. And I think that's exactly what we have done when it comes to Groundbreak. We have partnered with so many amazing leaders, which you'll hear from on this panel, and along with 30 plus more of them, to work in coalition to help change our community so that we can create opportunities for them and basically meet them at aspiration, at the corner of aspiration and capital. So we'll talk more about that.
David, introduce yourself.
Thank you. I'm David Mortenson. I'm a third-generation family leader of a construction business that was started by my grandfather 71 years ago. And I grew up with a mother and father who felt a deep sense of commitment and responsibility to community. So myself and my 3 brothers were washed and bathed in that sense of stewardship to our community. And it's really embedded in the purpose of our company. The purpose of our company is to build for the greater good, not just in what we build, but how we build. That we have this opportunity to positively impact people, planet, and community in everything we do. And that made it pretty natural and easy in the wake of the civil unrest after George Floyd's murder to see what needed to happen. We're a construction company. We saw destruction. We know how to fix things, but how are we going to do it? How are we going to pull together the resources and the collaboration that we're going to enable it? That was still a big question mark.
All right, and we'll talk more about that. R.T., can you introduce yourself in 90 seconds?
Yes, I can do that. Hey, I'm R.T. Rybak. I'm CEO of the Minneapolis Foundation. I was born in Minneapolis. My entire career has been in Minneapolis. I will die in Minneapolis, hopefully not soon. And I've loved all of what I've gotten to do in the civic community, from being a reporter to being a mayor and others. But Minneapolis is not a political town, it's a civic town. So I'm really blessed to lead the Minneapolis Foundation, second oldest community foundation in the country, I think. And we have doubled the amount of money going out of the foundation in just the past 8 years to now $120 million a year. And what I think is especially powerful about it is that people have responded to our call that We are a community of generosity, and we can do big things together. And I think that's very much what Groundbreak is about.
So let's go back in time a little bit. Let's rewind to the spring of 2020. Definitely a pivotal time, many ways to describe it, but I would love it if each of you could reflect on what that moment felt like for you, both personally and within your institutions. What pulled each of you into this work? And David, I would like to start with you.
Well, it started, we just live a mile and a half from George Floyd Square. So in the mornings, we woke up with ashes on our doorsteps. And the amazing thing about this community is people are pulled towards action. Nobody knew what to do in that moment. And we looked at each other as a family, and we just knew we had to act. So we grabbed brooms and shovels and garbage bags, and we went to Lake Street. And there were literally hundreds of people on Lake Street cleaning up. I think within 2 or 3 days, you could have driven down Lake Street without hitting a piece of ash or a brick. But the real question was what was going to happen next. And we did a survey with the help of the Family Foundation of what was going on or what had happened across the country with other communities that had found themselves in similar circumstance. And almost never did those communities actually recover. You know, the community is in trauma, government really isn't meant to respond quickly, and there was literally hundreds of millions of dollars of damage. And so we quickly went to the business community and laid out a plan of what we thought could happen. And we're really looking for help and support, and an angel arrived in the form of Rod Young, who is the CEO of Delta Dental, who quickly said, I will provide a $5 million challenge grant. And he, along with Todd Carpenter, with Donaldson, quickly became a chief fundraiser for what would become the Restore, Rebuild, and Reimagine Fund. And that was the start. But how were we going to do this, and what was that going to look like? We definitely didn't want any of these dollars flowing through M.A. Mortenson Company and the community to think that a construction company was trying to take advantage of the circumstance. Plus, the donors wanted a process and stewardship of their dollars. And that quickly led to a phone call to RT, because I knew RT and the Minneapolis Foundation could be a central partner in actually not only raising the funds, but stewarding them and creating process and governance to make sure it was done right.
So RT, take us back to that phone call. What was it like to get that call from David, and how did it align with what the Minneapolis Foundation was already seeing and doing?
Well, it's important, but I have to say hard, to just try to get a handle on what the emotions were at that moment. I can't tell you what it felt like to watch a cold-blooded murder take place in the middle of the city, committed by a person with Minneapolis on a patch on their shoulder, or to see these communities you love burn and feel like you're walking through a graveyard of your own work, or the next morning after all of this destruction to be out there with David's family and hundreds, I think thousands of others cleaning up. All of that was important, but the most consequential was when David called me, because when he talked about what it was like to put those teams out on the community, and David's contribution, I got to tell you, it may be the most significant single civic contribution I know in this city. It was an incredible one. And so we started this Restore, Rebuild, Reimagine process. So then David and I, along with the team at the Minneapolis Foundation raising the money, then we went over to the legislature, which was not excited about this, but we were eventually able to get $35 million. So we had now a $50 million pool for the Main Street Fund. And Joanne Stately, our incredible Senior Vice President of Impact of the foundation, set up community panels, all right, Joanne, and that began working. About that time, Tonya Allen moved to town, and my wife and I took her out to dinner. And we said, you know, Tonya, David's been out there restoring and we're rebuilding. We really need somebody to lean into reimagine. So I said to her something, which was, don't be a Minnesotan about this. Don't study this issue for 10 years and come up with a commission 10 years later. Get stuff done. And think big things. So I give her this pep talk, and Tonya came back with something a little bigger than I had anticipated. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is when I began learning the lesson, do not underestimate Tonya Allen.
Right, we've learned that. And so, Tonya, what was your thinking as the McKnight Foundation began exploring its role in this moment? What inspired you to lean in and actually help create the early vision of the Groundbreak Coalition?
So before I answer that, can I just say two quick things? One is that really important is that I don't want us to underestimate the work that David and RT did. I mean, it was really powerful work. I remember, like, one of the very first visits I actually did in Minneapolis was to go to Lake Street to see the work that they were doing. And David had like an entire project management team working, knew every property, knew every person who lost property, who was trying to rebuild their business, who had aspirations. And it was the most impressive thing I saw. And I came at it as a very skeptical Detroiter who have seen businesses who come in and say they want to do things, and they kind of like half start and then not half leave, fully leave before the job is done. And so it was extraordinary, and it was extraordinary to see RT take that work and use so much political capital to bring resources into that work and to navigate those politics. It just was a beautiful sight, and to see that community really do recovery during that period. And when RT asked me to take on the reimagining work, I was like gung-ho about it, like, let's go do some reimagining. And so our team went and gave some resources to communities up and down Lake Street to go and plan. And shortly after that, they started to come back with plans. Amazing. And one of the things that they started to come back was like, we need capital. And I was like, oh, we don't have capital. We don't have enough for what they were asking for. So it became really clear to me that if we did not try and rethink this capital question, we were going to do what every foundation, every civic community has done after every uprising in this country has done, which is to set these communities up for failure. And so we decided that we weren't going to do that, which was like, and the setup is simply this: what do you need? Oh, we can't really do that. Let's give you a fraction of what you need, and then you go off and try and figure out how you raise everything you need, even though we know you can't raise it. So the question was, how do we actually change the capital equation? Is there a way for us to actually take on the burden of raising and changing the way that capital actually flows so that you can do the work that you need to do, but the burden of raising capital is not on you? And so that's really the impetus behind Groundbreak, was all of these people who have capital, all of these capital actors, can we get in alignment? Can we change the rules? Can we rewrite the rules? And we are the rule makers. We have the capital. Can we change how we operate on behalf of these communities rather than making them jump through hoops? Why don't we jump through the hoops?
And you were interested in long-term strategies. You can apply. It sounds like you were talking about like an enduring investment, that needed to be part of the focus as well.
Sorry.
A long-term strategy, enduring.
Yeah,
investment?
it was designed to be a long-term strategy. So you could imagine when we first started, it was all about like, are you going to raise a fund? And we kept saying, no, this isn't about a fund. We have to create fundamental change. That we had to try and raise enough capital that would, first we had to figure out how to move capital in fundamentally different ways. And we had to raise capital at the scale or semi at the scale of the problem. Because if we couldn't figure out how to bring capital to the scale of the problem, then we were not going to have the impact that we needed to have. And you can imagine, what is the scale of the problem? Like, it had to be, this capital had to flow so reliably that when people come to get it, that they know it's going to be there year after year, that at least for 10 years, it's going to flow pretty consistently, and that it would change not just individual lives or communities for a short period of time, that it actually could change, what's the word I'm pulling for? This is called menopause brain. I'm trying to state these things
Across generations,
publicly
change,
so that we normalize science, that we change, that we do population level change, that's what scale is, right? So we started, because usually when you start talking about funds, you're talking about, well, how do we raise $50 million, $100 million? And so the next thing you know, we're talking about $5 billion. And that's exactly the scale of change we're talking about, $5.3 billion over 10 years, so that we can fundamentally change population level data for our community, so that we get everybody in our community participating, engaged in the economy. And if everybody is engaged in the economy, our economy does better. And everybody has greater ownership, which is all fundamentally equity is how do people feel ownership in this place so that they actually contribute and want it to grow and make sure that it grows.
The partners in Groundbreak didn't always operate in the same circles. So when it comes to building Black wealth and community wealth, private, philanthropic community, and corporate stakeholders often, show up with different priorities and different timelines. And so, David, I want to ask you about this. Would you explain how private capital helped get the ball rolling, and how philanthropy brought in public partners like the state, and then how the foundations help guide the work into this reimagining phase?
So I know when Tonya first talked to me about Reimagine, and she said, well, we just need to get $5 billion of capital. I said, oh, Tonya, you mean 5 million, right? And she said, no, 5 billion. And, your jaw drops, and you wonder if that's at all possible. But when you set a vision with the kind of passion and resources that you have, Tonya, you suddenly know it's possible. And the train that you have built to come alongside this vision, we are on that path. But when I wind back the clock to 2020 and what's first started happening, and I don't know if any of my construction colleagues are in here, but I'm going to say something you won't agree with, which is the construction part is easy. But moving quickly was critical. And the first thing we wanted to make sure we did was we had all the anchors along these economic corridors committed to rebuilding. So I called the CEOs of Cub Foods, Target, US Bank, Wells Fargo. I didn't need to convince them. They were already committed that we're going to rebuild. In fact, Cub Foods set up a temporary grocery store under a tent to serve the community. And then our project teams walked the corridors knocking on every door. And the most inspiring thing we found in this tragedy was every single business owner that we met with, not a single one, we met with over 300 business owners, not a single one said, this is too much for me. I'm going to pack up. I can't run this business. Every single one said, I want to be here. My community needs me. And that was double inspiration for the work that we were doing. And it actually helped when we went to the legislature and said, now we need government to step up too, because the private sector was already there. Philanthropy and corporations were putting the money into the Minneapolis Foundation so we could hire the local minority small businesses to put in new windows, put in new doors, put in new lighting, paint murals, new awnings. And you know, it's an enormous sense of collaboration and a great tribute to this community that when you walk down Lake Street or West Broadway or University Avenue today, you would not know what happened 5 years ago. That it does not happen very often.
So Archie, when you look back, what was it like for the Minneapolis Foundation to really, link arms with Mortenson when you already had a bunch of community partnerships? You were already working with other groups to do some of this redevelopment work.
Well, one of the things that I think is a lesson we should take out of this is to invest in the community development nonprofit ecosystem, because we'd been doing that for a long, long time, and they were ready to move at that point. So that was great. The thing that was, I think, magic about this moment is while we at the Minneapolis Foundation were very in the work of that, we recognized that we've been working on economic empowerment and economic mobility for decades. And in spite of all that investment, we hadn't really moved the dial, and now we were pulled back. But meanwhile, as Tonya and Groundbreak began to come, here are banks suddenly at the table. And here's philanthropy at the table, and here's government at the table. And all of a sudden, they started looking across the table at each other and having these dialogues we should have had a heck of a long time ago, and basically saying, lenders, why aren't you making more loans to homeowners of color? And they would say, talk about risk, and the foundation said, well, what if we put in a little bit and you took more risk? And they began to have these long conversations. The coalition that came together was completely unique. And I think for anyone looking at this, can we do this in my town? It is doable, but the horrible moment of George Floyd's murder made this much more possible. And so I think pulling this off matters to every single person in this room, because the wind we got in our sails is really what got us through that period that would have fallen apart a lot. And if we can prove it here, and if we can prove that financial institutions and politicians and community people are all together, now we've mobilized $1 billion in capital already. Think about that. That's the first of 1/5 of what Tonya was talking about that freaked both David and I out. Now we're beginning to think this can happen.
It freaked me out too.
Yeah. So I think it was a matter of looking at it and saying, at this moment, how many issues seem like way beyond your control? And then you recognize you're not in it alone, and this is the ultimate example.
It's, the first couple years was fixing what was broken.
Yeah.
What Groundbreak was really all about was getting to the root cause.
Yeah.
And I don't think anybody had gotten and focused on how do we get to the root cause at scale the way Groundbreak has defined it, and it gives me an enormous amount of hope and inspiration.
So let's pick up on this idea of scale and transformation. Tonya, what does it look like to build a coalition for systems change?
So you might, I could probably talk about like all of the technical pieces, which I will do a little bit of that. But I think the first part is you have to build for systemic change. You have to build first trust, and you have to build for resilience, and you have to build for ownership.
I'm envisioning a lot of cooks in the kitchen here.
Yeah,
I don't know how this
exactly
happened.
right. Well, so let's just imagine when we started this effort, we had a lot of wind at our backs. We now have tons of headwinds at us. And we knew at some point, we didn't know what those headwinds were going to be, but I knew that they were going to come. Like, there's no way you're going to try and do something this ambitious, this bold, this innovative without some attacks coming at you at some form of fashion, or just simply that there are going to be places where we're going to disagree, like fundamentally disagree on some issues. And so we had to have the skill set in the relationship and the trust to be able to argue and actually put the issues on the table to be able to do that. Because, you know, usually when you build these coalitions, and we started the same exact way, like people offer up their differing opinions, and then people listen to what they want to listen to, and then they ignore what they don't want to hear. And like I had to force our team to no, go hear what they're saying. Go respond to what people are saying, because we cannot afford to lose people because they believe that they aren't being heard. And they're like, no, they're being heard. Like, no, actually they aren't being heard. Like, you have to call people on the table. Like, you're not listening. You say you're listening, but you're not listening. And that's hard work. And the part of what I'm trying to say is, like, change is not about, you know, change comes from two things. I would say courage and power, right? You have to have the courage to change yourself, and then you have to have the power to rewrite your rules. And that's what Groundbreak has fundamentally been anchored in. Like, courage to change yourself, change your institution, and the power to rewrite the rules that actually situate the conditions that we're trying to change. And many of us have the power to rewrite the rules in which we're in, but most of us act like we don't. And most of us are bosses. Most of us actually have the rule books in our hands and don't use that power. And so we had to convince people and remind them that they have the power. And then there are some sets of power and rules that we don't have the capability of changing by ourselves, but collectively we have the power to influence or to advocate for change, and we can do that. And so I think that's what fundamentally the coalition was about. And it's also, I think, about making sure that we were building something for the long term, something that would be durable for the long run, and that we saw that these systems, that we weren't going to rush and just put something out. Now, I am a get-it-done person. Like, I want it done yesterday, all the time. Even if I said it just now, I'm like, why couldn't we get this done yesterday? I know the thought just came today, but it should have been done yesterday. But in order for it to be durable, you really have to build the systems. And so what we did was really spend the time on building the systems and the capacity of every partner in this system, so that as this system works and as it produces new homeowners, new business owners, commerce in communities and neighborhoods, new homes and communities and neighborhoods, as people develop all of those things, that we have every system player, partner in this ecosystem actually is ready to develop and do their part, and they can do it with excellence. And that took some time to do it. And I think you have to make sure that you're clear about what that looks like. You have to make sure that everybody's clear about the expected outcomes, and that we're clear about everybody knows what the risk and opportunities are on every side of that. So I think those are the kind of things you have to think about when you're trying to build that coalition for systemic change.
You all mentioned trust, but what about patience, right? It's hard to be patient, and sometimes when people aren't patient, then that erodes trust. What have you learned about patience, David?
Excuse me if I have to make a construction analogy, but
please.
But I think that trust and patience is really about building the foundation. And if you're going to do something for the long term, you've got to have a foundation that is super rock solid. And I know you've had some of this feedback. Like, you started talking about Groundbreak in 2022. How come we don't have 10,000 new black homeowners yet? Well, you've been focused on the foundation, so when we start the process, it's going to be durable for the next 7 or 8 years. And I super appreciate that patience and the patience that you've built within the coalition of people that are coming and bringing the capital and the expertise to make it happen.
RT, what have you learned about patience?
Well, you know, I think there's patience, but patience implies sitting in the same place. And in this case, we're dealing with this on very shifting sands. So we started, and I think Tonya touched on this, had wind in our sails, headwinds. There were the moral imperative of the early moment And the issues that are very different right now have changed the context, but we've been able to make the case for this that applies to both areas. For instance, the moral imperative. There's a family named Littlejohn. One of them does incredible equity work for David, and the other one, Calvin, is partnering with us on a building in North Minneapolis. They're an African-American family. They wouldn't have needed philanthropy to play a role in, for instance, that building because their grandparents had property. It happened to be in Tulsa, and it happened to have been on Black Wall Street. Their equity was stripped, so they're not using multi-generational wealth to create a building that they should have had the wealth to do. That's when we will step in. That's moral imperative. But now look at the moment when we're over talking to, for instance, legislators who may politically find this not to be something they want. I say to them, name me anybody who's talking about mobilizing at least $1 billion into this economy. Whether you happen to agree with closing these equity gaps or not, and I believe there's an incredibly deep moral imperative of that, whether you agree on that or not, the fact of the matter is there's money sitting on the sidelines that can move into the economy, that can create jobs and wealth for everybody. This is the ultimate, we all do better when we all do better work, and it is a resilient message because it translates both through these two very vastly different periods of time.
Tonya, as with any venture, there's a necessary transition from startup energy to sustained impact. So what has Groundbreak Coalition accomplished so far? What do you want people to know about what has been accomplished?
Yeah, so I would say, one, we have, you talked about patience. Like, we had, using this kind of building metaphor, you have to dig deep in order to go high. You can't dig, if you don't want to build high, you got to go dig. You have to dig deep because you have to have a strong foundation. And I would just say that we have really built a strong financial system that has concessionary capital that actually catalyzes market rate investment at scale. And I think that's really important. So we have structured grants that can go to families, loans that go to families, and guarantee pools that now allow families to purchase homes, to grow their businesses, and to invest in commercial districts in their communities and in their neighborhoods. We have, what I would just say, and I think is important to note, is that we have now had capital go through all of the pipes. And I think that's really important. And so we, in the last year, so the capital has just been released in May, so we have lots of projects that are in the pipeline. But last year we did a pilot of home ownership. And so we did 100 new homeowners that have gone through that pipeline. I think this year we anticipate and hope that that pilot will go from 100 and our goal is to get to 1,000 this year because we know that the pipeline works. So that's really exciting. And so we're hoping that we will see, a couple hundred new businesses that will grow this year as the first year, and that we would want that to grow as well in the next year to over 1,000.
Tonya, can you talk a little bit about the large 10-year vision? Because you talk about 1,000 homeowners this year, but what is Groundbreak's goal in terms of home ownership, in terms of entrepreneurship, and in terms of development and economic development?
So over the 10 years, I talked about population level change, and so these are the goals we're trying to do. So right now in the Twin Cities, we have a 50 percentage difference between white home ownership and black home ownership. And so that is equivalent, Ryan, I see you, tell me the number. 11,000 homes. So what we're trying to close that gap at least by 25%. So we want to get 11,000 new home owners in the next 10 years. So in that 10-year period, we're trying to do over 1,000 homes each year of new black homeowners. When it comes to our business community and new business owners, our goal is defined by per capita. We want new businesses started per capita for Black families at the same rate that we see for every other population demographic that we would see. And that number, Ryan, is 6,000? 6,000, okay, 6,000. So we're looking at 6,000 over the next 10 years. And then we have for our commercial development projects, which we want to target in those important cultural corridors that particularly were targeted in the uprisings in these communities that are highly valuable to communities of color and really important cultural cornerstones in the Twin Cities. We want to see between about 60 projects in those neighborhoods over the next 10 years. And the reason that we want to see those 60 projects there is because we think those 60 projects will be catalytic to move the market in those particular neighborhoods and communities, to create the kind of benchmarks and the numbers you see in those neighborhoods. So once you see them, then it's more likely to see commercial activity happen in those places and commercial lending to happen in those places. And then the last thing I will just share about the platform that is important, that I don't think we probably moved through this, is that what we're trying to do is to make sure that any family, any of these aspiring wealth builders, as they're going through the Groundbreak process, that they have access to equity, that many of them, as RT said, aren't coming with equity into these projects. So through Groundbreak, we are granting them equity. Second thing is that many of them need to have many of them may not have the assets that they need to be able to use and access the loans that they have. So we have a guarantee pool that provides them the kind of lending to extend their lending capacity or and then the third thing is that we have low-cost patient capital pools that are really important for them, especially for some of the businesses as they're trying to grow their businesses or extend their capital when they have big procurement orders, et cetera. Or if they're trying to do commercial development deals and they start to do that capital stack and the capital stack isn't stacking the right way. So that allows for that. And then the fourth thing is basically simply loans. So many of these banks have these really important special purpose credit programs that are being used or other kind of loan programs that they have. So we're trying to get them to use their most competitive lending tools inside of these banking institutions and to use kind of cooperation with each other. So like compete with each other to do the best you possibly can for the families in this community and to show up as competitively as you can in a good way. Do your good business, but also do well by these communities. And if you put all of those tools together in a platform, you can actually bring capital at scale into these communities that we can meet, like I said at the beginning, aspiration and capital can meet, and then we actually create opportunity.
Could I build on this a second? Just because one of the things that's really important about what Tonya just said is she walked through all of these tools. Also, because of the coalition that's together, there's great support, not just the money, there is technical support on that. And here's why that matters. I'm a battle-scarred veteran of what happened in housing in 2008. 2005, 6, 7, I'm mayor, lots of mayors around the country. We're just getting people into homes as fast as we possibly can because that's the gateway to home ownership. That's how they're going to start a business. Well, the problem is when the economy collapsed in 2008, scores of those people who we were so excited to get into homes lost their homes. Now when you take partners who are part of Groundbreak, like for instance Habitat, which has great support system, like the Home Ownership Center, there's much more rich support going forward. It's money and all of those, but there's also just the idea of qualifying, of understanding what it means to be a homeowner, and all of those support services add to the fact that these are numbers we can get people into homes, but it's also more likely they're going to stay there.
So, when we see these shifts in home ownership, that's huge, right? If we talk about a long-term strategy and long-term solutions, that's a huge accomplishment. Yes?
Yeah, and here's what I would also say. It's a huge accomplishment, but what we're finding is that these families, we're not actually pushing people into these homes. These folks are ready. Like when we went through the pilot, what we found was like most of these families had over 700 plus credit scores. You know, they had, incomes that were, $50,000, $60,000, $70,000. What they didn't have was the down payment. Like they could not figure out how to accumulate enough to get to their down payment. They had enough, some saved, but not enough. And then when you look at the barriers of particularly black families when they're trying to save money and the things that they have to spend money on because of the communities that they live in, because of the historic disadvantages, because of the kind of communal practices, and trust me, I can tell you, I just had my mother call me today asking me for money. So, like you do have different kind of communal practices that show up when you are building generational wealth, right? I'm actually going to say this because it's true. Like I had my cousin call me yesterday about my aunt. Something is happening with her house. I literally just said, okay, let me do this. And in order to save her house, this just happened to my family this week, I called and actually had to pay off like 5 or 6 months of her house because she had gotten behind on her house. She didn't know because she has dementia. But my point is, these are the kinds of things that happen in black families as they're trying to build wealth because there's not a lot of people who are on that upward trajectory in this country, and we just don't know. Or you have these kind of things that are coming at them, so they don't have the opportunity to build the wealth or build a nest egg in the same ways that you might have with a traditionally white family. So the point I'm trying to make is that they can't accumulate that nest egg in the same way, or maybe it takes them a little bit longer. And so Groundbreak is just giving them helping them accelerate the process. But it's not that they are pushing them into it in the way that you saw in the great housing crisis when people were being predatory or even advancing and pushing people when they weren't ready. These are families that are ready. They are aspirational. They've been working and building business plans, working on these things for many years, for many generations, and they're ready to go and move. And we're trying to make sure that they can actually participate into the American dream, and that in Minneapolis, in Minnesota, that we actually can be one of the first places in the country where, 70% of every population and, every demographic in this country can own homes in their particular community. It's not a place in the world or in our country where that actually exists. We believe it can happen here.
And David, as you look at some of the accomplishments of the Groundbreak Coalition, improvements in home ownership, is that something that is satisfying to you to see?
Absolutely, and it was really the first thing that Groundbreak recognized and brought a coalition around. For us, we were interested in supporting the entrepreneurship and how we can support as a family foundation and a business that next step of economic activity. Because what we saw is the banks and a lot of the large capital were early movers in helping the home ownership piece. And we wanted to be an early mover in helping the entrepreneurship piece of this coalition.
So David and RT, as your organizations have stayed deeply involved, it's been years now, why do you continue to invest? What motivates you and other partners to stay committed to Groundbreak? RT?
Well, I would say the Minneapolis Foundation easily for the past 30 years has been investing in this issue. And we alone cannot move the dial. And now we are able to be in a partnership at scale that we never would have imagined. And I'm getting older in this city that I love and all of that, and it is shocking to get the realization that in that increasingly long life, we have not seen this gap close. That's just, ponder that for a second. Decade after decade after decade after decade after decade, we know there are huge gaps, and we have not turned over the rock and figured out how to solve it. And finally,
The racial disparities you're talking about?
The racial disparities in home ownership and business starts. And if we get that right, we not only are addressing, as I say, the moral issue, but we are going to absolutely soar if we can bring that much more money into the economy, that many more people, and that many more children are going to grow up recognizing their potential because we address the underlying economic disparity that is at the core of everything that is wrong about a city where so much is right.
And so there's a commitment to continue to invest, grants and loans.
Oh, we are in this. And now we're not only putting our own dollars in from our endowment, but we're turning to our fund holders and saying to them, you can do individual grants here and there, and that is great, but this is an opportunity to take your dollars that we are investing for you and use some of them right now so you can invest in the community. We're telling people, stop sitting on your assets.
Okay.
I didn't write the line, but I like it.
I like that too. David, why do you and Mortenson, why do you continue to invest? And what is motivating you and other partners that you're in conversation with to stick with it, to stay committed to Groundbreak Coalition?
I think RT really touched on something that's important, is that we have an opportunity as philanthropy and business to use our assets in different ways than we've thought about using them before. We've generally had this concept that we have a foundation and we give grants out, but we also, to operate our business, are sitting on a pool of capital. And we asked ourselves, if our purpose is to build for the greater good, how are we using those assets? And so we defined as a family that we wanted some of our capital to be allocated for impact investing. That meant that we were going to make low-interest loans. We made a $5 million commitment to this entrepreneurship fund that was about providing the at-risk dollars and the guarantee in order for other capital to come in to help fund the businesses. And in the Mortenson Family Foundation, we are on a path to have 100% of our assets qualified as impact investing. We're not just chasing return. And every single one of us can do that, whether we're managing an endowment or we're managing the funds within our corporations. We can make an impact.
And do you feel that your peers, your colleagues, your competitors, they're watching you, right? And to some degree, is this generosity, is this creativity, this collaboration, is it contagious, right? Yeah. But doesn't it also create some pressure? Well, we have to demonstrate success.
I think we should feel an enormous amount of pressure with delivering on Groundbreak, and I think we do. I think there's been, as we've gone through this long process of getting this underway, I think pretty much all of us involved in this in some way feel the pressure that if we don't deliver now, when do we deliver? And I think that's good pressure because, initiatives come and go. And I go back to that moment, those months after George Floyd's murder where there were hundreds of initiatives around. Mm-hmm. And thankfully, this is the one that we have especially gravitated around. But if we don't do this now in this community, where is this going to be done? That's not the most optimistic thing out of an optimist's mouth, but I think it's really good to feel the fire and recognize that we have a golden opportunity right now. And if we get this right, we will, I used to be a mayor, and mayors go and steal things from other cities and claim them as their own. I want people to go, do your own Groundbreak, but we got to do this one first, so help us a little bit.
I feel like we're getting lyrics for a love song. Feel the fire, get off your assets. It's all coming together, Tonya.
He's the one who came up with restore, rebuild, and reimagine. So.
Okay, so in our remaining minutes here, I want to ask this question of each of you. We have this wonderful audience of people in leadership positions, people working in philanthropy. I want to hear, what is motivating each of you to keep going? I have a hard time getting up in the morning and hosting a talk show when it feels like so many systems are broken. Even the air we breathe right now is posing problems. But what is your vision for the future, and what charge would you give to philanthropy to help achieve these visions that we have? Tonya?
I would say one is what I've been inspired by is that when people made commitments to Groundbreak, it always started with something like this. We've never done this before. This is the largest we've ever made. Our board was nervous, but we said something to the effect of, what the hell? Let's go for it. I mean, it just is like the bravery, the courage in this community is just extraordinary. Like, in the ways that this community has shown up is just amazing. Like, we are change makers in this community. We are history makers in this community. Yes, we are just putting the capital through the systems, just starting now. I have no doubt that we are going to hit our goals. And now I think the people who are running the program are like, oh, Lord, there's a little bit more pressure. But good. That's a good pressure. I have no doubts that we're going to hit our goals. I have no doubts that people across this country will be talking about the work that came out of little old Minnesota. Because I believe that we are committed, that we didn't get committed because of the death of George Floyd. It accelerated the commitment we already had. It accelerated the values we already had. I would say to you all that this is a national model that happens to be localized in this particular place. We'd love to have you join us in doing the work. If you want to learn how to do this work up close and personal, if you want to get your hands dirty, or if you want to sit on the balcony and watch, we will take your money however you want to bring it. We'll take your assets however you want to bring it. Because we really do. We want to have it. We want to encourage you. And someone said to us, we were worried about, like, with all of the headwinds that we are getting from the federal level, like, what would happen to us? And we said, you know what, we're not worried about what's happening at the federal level, because we know that the people who really want to make change and who are going to be fundamentally committed to this work are going to be attracted to us. So if you are those people who are standing on those sets of values and who want to make a change in this country, who will set the norm, who are building in this particular moment, not trying to defend the status quo, you know where we're at. We're going to be sitting right outside of the stage, so come see us.
And David, your vision for the future, or what advice do you have for leaders in philanthropy?
You know, Tonya, you made me think of something in those moments 5 years ago. A lot of us spent a lot of time asking ourselves and saying words like, I can't believe this happened in Minnesota. This is something that we would have thought would have happened somewhere else. And now today I sit here and I think about, thank goodness this happened here in Minnesota, with bold leadership that sets a vision, with a community that has for decades been built on relationships and trust and a desire to come together to do something that makes a real difference. And to see the fact that now in 2025, we might move 1,000 homeowners, 1,000 black homeowners into their own homes, that dollars are now starting to be allocated to entrepreneurs. I go and walk down Lake Street about every 60 to 90 days, and it reminds me of the intrepidness of those business owners, and it re-inspires me every single time I'm there that we can do this.
And RT, how do you describe your vision for the future, and what words of encouragement do you have for other leaders in philanthropy?
Well, let me start with a view of the past. My parents had a corner drugstore near Lake Street and near where George Floyd was murdered. And as a kid, when the drugstore would close, we'd drive around and deliver prescriptions. So I was able at that time to walk up to a door and give them the prescription and look at the door and see kids my age who had a lot less. And almost all of the people who had stores in that area looked like my parents and me. And to know that all these years later, we are able to change that in a way that is sustainable. And first and foremost, to help the incredibly diverse group of entrepreneurs that David is talking about. First off, to help them stay there after all they went through. And now to think, wow, there's a whole other generation coming behind. And then to think where those kids will grow up to be. I mean, this is a really tough moment to be in philanthropy. I just walked out of a room about all the governments. It's hard. The only thing harder than being in philanthropy right now is not being in philanthropy right now. What an incredible moment we're in where everything is being questioned. And I don't like a whole lot of the answers that are being given. This is one we can solve. And to me, the balm for the really difficult stuff we're going through right now is to go out and make this work and finally change a community that knows what its problem has been and is going to fix it. Man, that makes me feel good in a period of time where that's a little rare.
Our time is up. I just want to thank our panelists for your work and being willing to share with us what's been going on behind the scenes. We've been talking with David Mortenson, chairman of M.A. Mortenson Company, R.T. Rybak, CEO of the Minneapolis Foundation and former mayor of Minneapolis, and Tonya Allen, the president of the McKnight Foundation. Thank you for your time and attention, everyone.
Well, we have come to the end of our time together.
I am feeling so energized about all of the great work that people are doing in their communities across the country.
I don't know about you, but I can already feel a shift based on the conversations that were had and the ideas that were generated right here.
Yeah, but I'm just wondering.
What?
How do we keep that momentum going? It's so easy to go back to our lives after a meeting of hearts and minds like this. We go back to our jobs and our day-to-day routine, and this inspiration, this motivation just falls away.
Yes, we need to stay energized. We need to keep bringing our focus and attention to these ideas, to the seeds that were planted here.
Water them, nurture them.
Because what you pay attention to grows.
What you put your energy into gets bigger.
So maybe
yeah?
we keep coming back to those questions that were asked over the last 3 days. What do you want people to say about your community in 250 years?
What makes your community special?
What's a hope or wish that you have for the future of your community?
Oh, I think we're about to see your answers to those questions. Your hopes, your seeds.
Let these ideas guide your work. Let them be the vision of our future.
Because we want to be a part of that future.
When I think about what I want people to say about this community in 250 years, I want them to say that we had compassion, and I want them to say that we had courage, and that we changed things. We made decisions today that would serve this community, this country, and the world for the next 250 years.
My hope and wish for Fort Wayne is that we can really come together to capitalize on our strengths and being a leader not only in our state of Indiana, but a leader in the country in all of the great things that we're working on.
my hope for Fort Wayne is that we keep our spirit of potential and possibility. We're not the biggest, we're not the smallest, but I feel like we're always an incubator for dreaming bigger.
250 years from now, my community will say that we lean into the we culture and not the me culture. They will also know the difference between the two.
Steamboat Springs is a rural resort community. We are also an agricultural community and a coal mining community going through an economic transition. So my hope for my community is that we can lean on our shared history, on the incredible natural beauty we enjoy, and the river that runs through all of our communities to heal our divisions and build toward a community in which everyone is thriving and flourishing.
What makes our community special are the people, whether they be our donors, our nonprofit partners, other community stakeholders who show creativity, resilience, and tenacity in the midst of the most difficult and challenging times.
I'm Carrie Brown with Palm Health Foundation in Palm Beach County, Florida. And what makes Palm Beach County special is that we have million-dollar mansions and families facing financial barriers within just miles of each other, and that actually is not an issue. That is our superpower. So looking forward to a community that builds things together and finds creative solutions.
My hope is 250 years from now, this will be seen as the moment in which Minneapolis-St. Paul recognized that common ground is about more than just physical space. This community is the exact opposite of a gated community. We took the very best amenities, the lakes, the parks, the creeks, the waterfalls, and put them all in common hands. So our park systems are filled with people from every background in every part of town because we recognized that everybody deserves to be in the best physical spaces.
Hi, I'm Dr. Raphael Allen with the Springfield Foundation out of Springfield, Ohio. What makes my community special is the fact that what was made to break us and tear us down ultimately end up making us stronger.
Hi there, I'm Kathleen Enright, the CEO of the Council on Foundations. I just want to thank you for the incredibly hard work you do every day in community to help make your place better. Thank you for coming to Leading Locally 2025. And I cannot wait to see you again at Leading Locally in 2027 in Los Angeles.
Brass Solidarity is a street activist brass band from George Floyd Square based in South Minneapolis. They have met weekly for over 200 consecutive weeks, using their music to echo a message of joy, hope, healing, and love while demanding change in the fight for racial justice.
All right, yeah, put your hands together. You know the song, you can sing it with me if you want. When the night has come and the land is dark and the moon is the only light we'll see. No, I won't be afraid. No, I won't be afraid. Just as long as you stand by me. Now you should sing along. So darling, darling, stand by me. Oh, won't you stand by me? Oh, won't you stand now? Stand by me. Stand by me. If the sky we look upon should tumble and fall, or the mountain should crumble to the sea, I won't cry. I won't cry. No, I won't. shed a tear, just as long as you stand by me. Let me hear ya. So darling, darling, stand by me. Whoa, won't you stand by me? Oh, won't you stand now? Stand by me. Stand by me. Whenever you're in trouble, won't you stand by me? Oh, won't you stand by me? Oh, won't you stand now? Stand by me. So, darling, darling, stand by me. Oh, won't you stand by me? Won't you stand now? Stand by me. Stand by me. Whenever you're in trouble, just you. Beautiful. Won't you stand now? Stand by me, stand by me. Let's one more time. Whenever you're in trouble, won't you stand by me? Whoa, won't you stand by me? Won't you stand now? Stand by me, stand by me, stand by me. Stand by me, stand by me.
Live. We are Brass Solidarity. We're so happy to join you all at this conference about place-based activism and making local change, because we are place-based activists. We all live, most of us live within a few miles of George Floyd Square, and the band is a community band. We're educators, we're students, we're scientists, we're postal workers, we're all kinds of community members that came together in the wake of the Derek Chauvin verdict. And when we play out in the community, we want to draw attention to the ongoing injustice and unmet needs, but also the inspiring and vital street-level activism that continues to happen in the square every single day. So come on out to the square. We play every Monday at 5:30. If you live in town, you can join us any week.
All right. And this is a tradition that we've started in the square, and we do on the Mondays. We do our reflect and heal and bring in community setting in a land of oppression. So we acknowledge and we say his name. George Floyd. Let us say his name. George Floyd. And there are so many others, as in Emmett Till, Breonna Taylor, Brandon Keys, Fong Lee, Karen Franklin, Christian Rivera Coba. Yes, and so many names. They go on, and we try, and we pray, and we reflect, and we ask for mercy, and we demand mercy. All the days, yes we do. We pray every day, yeah. Too many names to say, to say, to say. Oh, yeah. We say their names every day.
Appreciate y'all. Again, we're Brass Solidarity. Happy to be here. Happy to bring our sound, our message to this movement, to this space. We got one more for you. This one, we're gonna need y'all to dance your faces off. No, I'm so serious. We'll do a little moving. You'll recognize the tune as we get into it. You'll recognize the tune, but again, grateful to be here. Join us if you're in town every Monday, 5:30 to 7. We bring our sonic occupation to 38th Chicago, which is also known as George Floyd Square, to bring our sound, to bring a message of hope and healing and joy and love, and also justice to that space. So come out and support. We're also on social media, Instagram, Facebook. We have a website as well. And we might actually catch you in your town because we do a little traveling too. And with that,
all the folks in Israel and Egypt, get it together. And the two, don't you let this track accusation. If you miss it, I feel sorry for you.